Hi, this is Liz and welcome to my podcast, Spiritually Speaking with Liz. Today, I'm joined by Amy Anthony. Amy is a certified clinical aromatherapist and aromatic gardener. She left her career in marketing research to pursue her passion working with plants. As a certified aromatherapist, aromatherapy educator, herbalist, gardener, certified master composter and distiller, Amy is one of New York City's top aromatherapy practitioners and is listed as America's top 50 most influential aromatherapists, amongst the likes of the Tisserands, Gabriel Moje, Salvatore Battaglia, Shirley Price, which is who I trained with, incidentally. Amy is currently the New York State representative for the Alliance of International Aromatherapists and has her private practice called New York City NYCaromatica, which includes one-to-one customized aromatherapy sessions, online class offerings, corporate consulting, and article writing. Amy hosts her own podcast, Essential Aromatica, and tends to her own aromatic garden on the North Fork of Long Island, where she distills her unique products. Wow, Amy, welcome. And thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me, Liz.
Oh, you're welcome. I've got some strict questions because otherwise I know we're just going to geek out on oils and bore people. So I thought if I just sort of contained it a little bit, then we could get some information across instead of us geeking out.
I love it.
Okay, so let's dive straight in. And when did your love of aromatherapy and plants first start?
That's a question I had to think about for a long time through the years of my aromatherapy training and practice. But I grew up gardening. I have pictures of myself like weeding from being really little. So I always had I was living in nature. And fast forward to my teen years and then going to college, and I just had to get a job, right? I have to do that. And I was in corporate America. I learned a lot there in market research. I worked at places like GFK, which is an international market research firm, and I ended up at JP Morgan. So I was not very happy. I loved my job. I still love market research, but I always felt empty and always was finding ways to connect back to nature. And then the oils found me. I found them. I think I found the classic gateway drugs like eucalyptus, and I was putting them in my humidifier. And I'm like, who are you? And this was probably in 2011. And I took my first aromatherapy workshop in 2012, and I was compelled. I was just obsessed to the point of not crazy obsession, but I'm like, I need to know more. And back then I didn't know why. And then I was reading and buying books and found the New York Institute of Aromatherapy was like 10 minutes from my apartment when I was looking for places to become certified. I know, right? Like slap you in the face. I'm right here. Wake up, I'm calling. So I was compelled. And then I realized finally, after a few years, that I was always disconnected. I needed nature. And I literally knew I was ungrounded living up off the ground here in New York City. Literally, I knew that about myself. And the oils found me, and it's a connection to nature. And that's my message to people is when we're feeling ungrounded, the essential oils are a way to connect with yourself and with nature. And it took me a few years to articulate that.
I love that. It's so true because they are such potent nature in that little bottle.
Yeah.
So powerful. Amazing.
And I think this happened this morning. I was getting my coffee at my usual place, and I had some blends I made for a corporate workshop about a week ago. And I often give my friends at the coffee shop, like, smell this, or here's a cream I made or something. And what happens unless you give people coaching, they're like, oh, it's the oil in a bottle. I sniff. I like that. It smells like eucalyptus. And that's kind of what happened. And it's like, oh, we have so much education to share with people to say, like, there's so much going on in this little bottle, and it's more than giving it one sniff.
It's so true. It's so true. I'm just going to jump about a bit. Well, first of all, I'll ask you, how did aromatherapy take you out of your corporate world? And it's obviously changed your life. So you've you came across the oils, the New York Institute was nearby. What was the leap? What was the point that you thought, do you know what? It's calling me. I have to fully immerse myself in it.
It's a really fair question and a good one. And I have to share that I am very grateful that I have a spouse who is very supportive of me when I was like, I can't do this corporate stuff anymore. I'm miserable. I want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like probably a year and a half in the making. And during that time, I was just dabbling with the oils, and I wasn't doing my formal training and even informal study yet. So it was just this transition. I thought I was going to be a professional organizer when, because I'm into that too. So I thought when I was quitting my corporate life, I thought I would transition into that. And
Mm-hmm.
then the aromatherapy was like, fell in my lap. And when I was training and becoming certified and doing this, I was asked to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly it literally fell in my lap, and I'm so grateful for that. And as I shared with you, I was driven. I just had to do this, and I didn't know why.
Well, they've called you. There's no, yeah, that is the answer, isn't it? You have been
Yeah,
called. There's no clearer pathway than that.
yeah. And again, I'm so grateful for my spouse because I had this opportunity and many opportunities, and I'm really grateful for that. So I have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and that's lovely. And I think you've repaid way and above with how well you've done.
Thank you.
I have to say, I've been listening to your podcast, which I love.
Thank you.
And in one of them, you were talking about, I'd just like people to hear this because I found it really powerful. And you were talking about a veteran, a war veteran, who'd suffered really badly with PTSD and his connection with a eucalyptus tree. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. This book, but so the long and short of this is I created a community class called Connection, Nature, and Aromatherapy, and that's the title of the podcast episode. And I know the owner of a bookstore on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and I said they give their space out for free. And I was like, well, I'd love to give a class, a community class, but I'd like people to buy books from your bookstore. So I found 3 books in the bookshop that have to
No.
do with nature.
Uh-huh.
So I use them as inspiration for this workshop I made, a class. And this story that you're referencing, that I'm referencing, is from The Well-Gardened Mind.
Mm-hmm.
This book called by Sue Stuart Smith. It's The Well-Gardened Mind, The Restorative Power of Nature. And you're in the UK. And of course, she is a psychiatrist and psychotherapist, earned her degree from Cambridge, and she's from the UK.
Okay.
And it's all about the connection with nature. And in this book, she talks about several things, but the healing powers of gardening.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, I'm referencing, there's this man named Eddie, and he had post-traumatic stress disorder. If I recall, he was a war veteran. I'd have to double check that fact. But he was disconnected and judgmental and itchy and had a hard time integrating back into life. And he was part of this therapy program in gardening. And what he found was he'd walk around the garden and couldn't connect with people, but there was a eucalyptus tree. And it became a ritual for him to go and stop at the tree. And he's like, who are you? He was like, drawn, it's aromatic. The aromatics get your attention. And
Mm-hmm.
he'd take and crush a few leaves and smell them and feel uplifted. And it became something that he did. And if I could read just a few
Please
pieces
do.
from
Yeah.
this.
I found
Yeah.
it really powerful.
Yeah, so thank you. And again, this book was compelling to me. I think I read it in 2 days, so I highly recommend it. Um, so I have a few things highlighted. While other forms of relationship may feel too threatening at the start, nature can help alleviate this disconnected state, such as post-traumatic stress disorder. I witnessed this when during a circuit of the grounds, Eddie paused by a eucalyptus tree. I never walk by without doing this, he said, as he picked a couple of leaves, crushed them, and inhaled the aroma. It always gives me a mental buzz. It was his point of connection and became clear how much, especially in the early months of his rehabilitation, it it had helped to steady him. So this eucalyptus tree, this aromatic experience gave him an anchor point. I love this part. By contrast, the natural world offers an environment, versus the terrible human world we make. But the natural environment world offers an environment in which people can feel accepted just as they are. Eddie was conflicted about receiving help from other people, but the uplifting smell of the eucalyptus tree was a free gift of nature. And what possible shame could there be in getting a boost from a tree? I mean, it could go on a little more, but I won't. But I think your listeners get the point.
I just thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, all of it, like a free gift of nature. And I share this in workshops as things. I have people drink aromatic teas because it's not just about the essential oils. Like when we can go and experience clean air, watching a tree, smelling eucalyptus, cutting up fresh ginger and putting that in your food, that is a gift. Right?
Absolutely. It totally is. And anything like that, and I know you'll be the same, that I am very smell orientated. I always have been. Like perfumes, I find quite offensive, or they give me crazy headaches, or, I'll be like ducking and diving around, and Kev, my husband, will go, what are you doing? I go, oh, that person's wearing, I won't say there's one particular perfume that really... And it just stays with me. And if one of my beautiful friends, and I've never said wears a very powerful perfume, I hope she's not listening, and when she hugs me, because she gives the best hugs, but when she hugs me, I can always smell it. And it'll stay with me all day, and it affects my mood. It affects how I feel. You're the same.
Oh my gosh, yes. And my husband's very attuned to this now too, where we were out to dinner last night and someone was nearby and there's a perfume and both of us were just like, oh, it's like you're ruining my dinner because our taste and smell are together.
Yeah.
Right. And I have something personal to share. You just shared something about a friend. I just had someone stay with me, and this individual I haven't seen in a while, and a big fan of their perfume. And it clouded my apartment. And this is 2 weeks later, my guest room still smells like that perfume. And it kind of makes me angry when I walk by the room now because it irritates me. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, it is, because it comes into our space. It's very, smell is very intense in a good way, but in a bad way, it can be as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing I find for aromatherapy. And again, you're in the UK, so you are in a culture that knows more about aromatherapy, I feel. Here in the US, people just think it's about smell. And I have to remind people, like at that workshop I mentioned, I had a person sitting there and I said, like, remember, we're inhaling this stuff. It's going into our systems. It goes into our bloodstream. It works with our nervous system. And he's like, wow, I didn't think of that. Because I think people think smell is outside. And it's like, it doesn't affect you, but it's chemistry. And we're at a big educational opportunity for people here in the US, especially, that's like, it's not about bad fake synthetic smells and just putting a diffuser on. I'm sorry, I'm on a soapbox, so thank you for
No,
this.
I'm right alongside you, Amy. I'm here. I'm here. In my shop, I have rows of essential oils, and then at the bottom I have fragrance oils, because people want fragrance oils and I have to give them that choice. But when they ask, I want an oil for my diffuser, then I'll say, well, what's the difference? So the bottom row, they're fragrance oils, they're perfumes. The top rows, they're aromatic oils, essential oils. So they come from plant matters and they have therapeutic value. What do you mean? And, so I'll say, well, lemon, for example, will be a nice, clean, uplifting smell. Lavender will be a nice, calming, relaxing smell. Oh, and so many people still, I mean, like you say that the UK is ahead of aromatherapy. I'm not sure about that, but there's still a lot of people, oh, well, it just smells. It all smells the same anyway. It does not.
Yeah, no.
I get mortally offended.
Yeah, I mean, I think because you have a lifetime of spiritual practice, and I've listened to some of your podcast episodes, and
Thank you.
like um, it, we have to take time. Like, and we're humans, right? We're like, what's next? What's next? Because we're dopamine driven, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
that's next. It's shiny and bright. What's over there? Oh,
Yeah.
that smells like that. So we're like, but we know as practitioners, we have to sit and notice and pay attention. And this is part of that nature cure, going back to that book, The Well-Guarded Mind. It's like we
Mm,
have to be curious and not to be like, oh, it's a smell. Like, no, it's more than that. That's why we study this stuff and geek out.
yeah. I love a bit of a geek. Right. Something I'd like to ask you about, and to give your advice to listeners, is we have at the moment, I don't know how it is in America, but at the moment there's a real sort of surge here, a wonderful surge in empowerment for women who are going through menopause. So we've had celebrities come forward and really give warts and all, of their scenario and how it's been affecting them. So I'd like you to give some information maybe, or things that you've picked up on the symptoms that have. So like I at the beginning of the year, I suffered terribly. I had anxiety, I had the palpitations, I had insomnia, I had low mood, I
Mm-hmm.
had rants, I had rage at some points, not so much, but I would have of the rage. And brain fog. Oh my goodness, brain fog was just crazy. What examples of oils could you give that would be beneficial to any women listening? And it's not, we're not ruling the men out here, because they go through it as well with
Yeah.
us, or I believe they have their own form of testopause, I call it.
Yeah.
But what advice could you give to women? So any women that are listening that are struggling, what advice would you give?
So first, I just want to share that I am perimenopause, and I'm thankful for the women that are speaking about this
Yes.
and saying that this is a time of once you can help your symptoms,
Uh-huh.
this is a time of great growth, and it's another time for vitality. Like,
Mm.
life's not over after 40, 50, 60, 70, right?
It's a
Even
new start. I call it
uh,
embracing the crone.
yes.
We just need to, it's another rite of passage. We had the
Yeah.
rite of passage where we started our periods. Now we
Hmm.
have the rite of passage where we end them.
Yeah. And there's a creative freedom in that. And I love learning from some older women and being really excited about this stage of my life. And
Mm.
I think we're grateful that we're not living 100 years ago or back in the Victorian
I know,
times
I know, but
when women were so
they were
suppressed.
so, yeah, they really were. But even my own mother will say, I don't know what all the fuss is about. I don't know why you all have to go on about it.
Ah,
And my sister and I were like, wow. But that's, we in Britain, it's the stiff upper lip. You just
yep.
put up with it, you get on with it. And it's so wonderful to have this support. You don't feel like you're going through it on your own, do you? You can empathize with women, you can sympathize with women because you've felt those feelings.
Yeah, and I will get to your questions because I have oils to talk about
I
and sharing
see
some
them.
ideas. But I just do want to share something. I am currently living with fibroids,
Okay.
and I didn't know I had them until about a year ago when I had severe pain. So I'm finding, shockingly in quotes, the more I talk about this, I'm getting other people saying, I have that. I know someone that's going through that. I know someone that's choosing to have a surgery or not. And it's like the more we talk, right, the more we share, the more we learn and the less weird we feel.
Yes.
So I do want to share that because this is
Thank
a
you.
journey I'm on, and I'm not going to shut up about oils or, I guess, women's health. So um, I just I have a friend, my dear friend Becky. She is the owner of Blue Marble Botanicals out in Wisconsin, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, here in the U.S. And we came up with a blend of hydrosols. So people that are into essential oils, we can't also forget about the hydrosols. Like people often know about rose water, but I feel on the market, a lot of people here in the US have no idea what a hydrosol is. So I distill for hydrosols, and I distill vitex berry or chaste tree
Oh,
berry,
wow. Yeah.
particularly for the hydrosol, and I distill rose petals and many other things. But I made with my friend Becky a 50-50 part hydrosol mix of vitex and clary sage.
Oh, wow.
And we were selling that in her shop. She doesn't sell online, she only sells in person. And we called it Lilith.
Oh,
And
I
this
love
is
that.
right. So the ultimate biblical female, she's like, I'm taking power, I'm taking control. And this hydrosol is beneficial to mist on yourself for, yes, mood and balancing, but hot flashes.
Oh, wow.
And I'm talking about like two classic aromatics of Vitex berry or Vitex agnus castus and Salvia sclarea, just known to help balance. So Vitex is proven to work herbally, and I'm seeing that with aromatherapy, with progesterone balancing on the hypothalamus and pituitary gland level. And then clary sage is shown to be work with like estrogen balancing. And when you put those two together, it could be very, very beneficial for, with aromatherapy, we're always talking mind body, right?
Yeah.
So with hot flushes, symptoms of irritability, but we know we're working with the nervous system. So that's also working with, of course, mind and mood states. So this mist, you could work with the hydrosol a few times a day, spritzing your face when you feel a hot flush coming on, or just if you're not having flushes, just feeling irritable, you could use it as facial toner. So that's something I was excited about because we have
I'm making a
people
note.
telling us that hey, this is working for me. So we have, case study evidence, not clinical evidence, but so those oils are really beneficial. The Vitex clary sage. Another balancing one, I think a lot of people know about rose geranium,
I love it.
Pelargonium graveolens or Pelargonium asperum. So that is known to be, I found it for myself to be incredibly mood balancing. So for instance, with my fibroid journey, I made myself a preparation that did include geranium. And after about 3 days, and I tell everyone, give it 3 days, use it every day. I found myself not being so, I call it itchy, like the irritability like not anger, but slight edginess.
Yeah, totally get
So
that.
and rose geranium is very beneficial for balancing the mood and that like evening, and also for balancing skin issues diluted.
Yeah, on an evening, I will put a bit of jojoba oil, a bit of, depends what my mood, what my skin's like, maybe marula, maybe rose hip, whatever I fancy. But 2 or 3 drops of the rose geranium. And to me, it's like a treatment. It's just that uplift. And it does, it brings a smile to your face. It really
Yeah.
does bring a smile to your face, but it is, yeah, I can always tell when I've used that and had a good massage of my face, the next day people always say to me, oh, you look really bright, or oh, your skin looks really clear. And I believe it's that.
Yeah. And I love how you share that because it's mind body. So you might have had a massage, you might have applied it topically, but it's both, right? You're affecting your mood. So you're like on the tissue level, you're working with yourself, and then your internal chemistry is changing. So you are brighter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just mind's brighter, so body's brighter. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So fun. Um,
No.
I love it. I'm just having a flashback. I was at a health fair for like city workers here. I was in Brooklyn, and I had neroli hydrosol.
Oh, it's my
And oh my God. And this woman sprayed it, and she, in a good way, she started to tear up. Like it
favorite.
moved her so much. And I've seen that happen several times with
Yeah.
hydrosols. And I'm bringing this up because you could have this instantaneous shift with
Yeah.
the aromatic plants.
It's a
And it's,
healing, isn't it?
yeah, an opening, a healing, a recognition. It could be a memory, but it's so deep and like in multi-layered with aromatherapy, right? We have scent recognition, we have I like this, I don't like this. I have that again, breathing it in, it's going in and changing us, working with our hormones, with our neuroendocrine system. So it's really powerful. And I've had people when I was teaching at the New York Institute of Aromatic Studies, I'd have people within about, we'd have like night classes. I could have like a 3-month certification class.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember some students being after like one cycle of their period, working with things like clary sage, rose geranium, ylang. I'll share a few more. They're like, my period is more balanced,
Mm.
right? So this is the real deal, and it takes some time sometimes, but it's really beneficial.
It's just finding that balance sometimes with people, because we are all individuals. So there's no prescription of this. I found this with the menopause that, oh, well, this worked for me. You try it and you think, oh, it didn't really do anything for me. Where other things you try, and like you say, 2 or 3 days, you're like, oh God, this feels so much better. This is working for me. So we are all very unique, aren't we? And
Yeah.
what works for one doesn't work for another.
And thanks for saying that, because that's a part of a professional aromatherapist is we're here to study oils, and I call it learning the personalities of them. So yes, you can go to a store and buy a pre-made blend, great. But when you work with a professional aromatherapist, I know the cast of characters, and I'm going to blend something for you that you want to to work with. And I
Yeah.
don't like the word use. I have to give a shout out. I studied under an herbalist here named Jim McDonald in Michigan of the US. He would often cite Christopher Headley. He was a recently deceased British well-known herbalist.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a quote that it's like the plants have themselves, and it's about working with the plant.
Yeah,
And I like
absolutely.
that language. And here in the US, we're always like, what's that good for? Let me use that. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
People want
no.
instant, they want an instant fix.
Yeah.
Everything's I want now, isn't it? And sometimes you just have to give at least a few days for something to settle into your system. But like you say, when you've been to a true aromatherapist, a clinical aromatherapist, and they've prescribed, because it is prescribing what we do. We've learned, I love how you call them a cast. It's true. We've learned that cast, and we know who will be the right ones for those people.
And you give them a choice too. So you'll say, I recommend these, smell them. Are you okay with them? And
Mm-hmm.
then you might top something off that they like really resonate with. Like I have here, I wanted to bring for mood, lemon balm.
Nice.
So lemon balm or Melissa
Mm-hmm.
officinalis, that's a very European herb. It's proven to work with anxiety, mood. It's a proven nervine in the herbal world to work with uplifting and being a little sedative to calm the nerves. So that could be a beautiful oil for someone to work with. And the hydrosol is lovely. Have the herbal tea.
Mm-hmm. The tea,
Is
yeah, the
that's
tea would be a nice one, wouldn't it, for anybody who's getting that anxiety, getting those palpitations, just to help bring them down that little bit.
Yeah, and speaking of palpitations, another oil that's lovely, um, ylang
Mm-hmm.
or Cananga odorata for the Latin name, is called poor man's jasmine. On my
Mm-hmm.
website, I have a plant profile about ylang, and don't call her poor man's jasmine.
No.
But she is proven, this is from the flowers of the tree, to help with hypotension, blood pressure,
Yeah.
to smell the oil and get the molecules, and you could really connect with your sensuality,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and calm down, like help with the literally your heart. And flowers are for the heart,
Yes.
right? So another one being a trio I really love for men and women, but calming, being sensual, cooling. So often menopause, because it's a hypothalamic level and
Mm-hmm.
pituitary, the cascade for hormones, we have heat. The
Yeah.
body doesn't know how to work with heat anymore because the regulation's off because estrogen is changing, right? Rose, super cooling. really nice and facial preparations. Again, the hydrosol, cool yourself with that. Rosacea, vetiver,
I love
patchouli,
vetiver.
right? And the three of those blended together, or just rose and patchouli, calming, cooling. Just smelling vetiver, I find, cools your body temperature.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. It does. And immediately for me, it brings the mind just down, just drop, it just brings you into that.
Yeah.
Just, I'm trying to remember. Here we go with the brain fog. I do a calming mist, and there's vetiver, lemon. Oh, I can't remember now. But I even with the lemon, I'll sometimes use it on a night, and I'll just put a little bit on my solar plexus, just do a little circle round, and I sleep like a baby. As long as
This
I've got no hot
blend,
flushes.
this particular blend, yeah. And that's the thing, is just a little bit. One thing I love to do is for myself is I'm a big advocate of inhalation, of olfactory aromatherapy.
Yeah.
So not topical work, especially if I'm just introducing oils in a corporate workshop or something. I'm like, just smell. One drop of lavender or rosalina on a cotton pad if I have congestion to help me go back to sleep. One drop of oil. That's all it takes when we're working with aromatherapy. So I was just giving a workshop amongst nurses at a really, really great hospital here in New York. And I remember feeling a bit ramped up, and I had the vetiver. I was introducing it. And when I was smelling it, I acknowledged to the group, I was like, I literally just calmed down. And I was smelling the oil for just a minute.
It
Like,
is that.
thank you.
I've calmed down, I'm here. It just pulls you in, doesn't it? It just pulls you into your body. You feel those roots.
Yep.
I'm here. I'm grounded. Now you see, like the patchouli, I'm not a patchouli fan. And I remember before I trained going to an aromatherapist, and I can't remember why she was prescribing me patchouli now. And she said, smell it. And I was, oof, no, I don't like it. Well, you'll get used to it. How crazy is that? Because obviously when I went to smell that blend, that's all I could smell was the patchouli. I couldn't smell the other fabulous oils.
Yeah.
And I think that was quite a turn point for me, because I thought, you know what, that's just, you're giving me something I don't like, and you've got all these oils here in front of you. There must be another one here. Went away and did my own research. And my sister had Shirley Price's Practical Aromatherapy book. And I was staying with her at the time. It was in the bookcase, and I was like, oh, picked that up, and that was it. I was hooked. I was in. I was off.
So
Incredible, isn't it?
That is such a great, that kind of an origin story right there for you, right? It's like, and thanks to people that are putting these books out there and like doing what you and I are doing. It's like, we're here to help. I'd like to cover costs of my business, but I'm not here to get rich off the plants.
No, it's sharing.
Sharing, and to come full circle, like for me, it's connection. And I found that, believe it or not, I'm quite reserved. I call myself an introvert, but these beautiful plants connect me to the world and help me connect with other people. And that, that's also a part of my aromatic gardening comes in. If I don't know who those plants are and how they're growing and what they look like and what they do, seeing how they grow helps me understand how they exist in the world and how they can help in our body. So this whole message is about connection. And I found it to be incredibly powerful for me on my journey. And it's, to go back to what you're saying, it's like this individual, it's like, it's good for you, you get used to it. It's like, no, I have to listen to you as an individual. And I'm here to help you, not to like make money off of pushing oils. So it's a message for, it's a message. That's my message.
Did it? No, it totally is. I'm going to wrap us up now, but honestly, I could go on forever, and I would love you to come back at some point if that works for you, because I want to hear all about the aromatic gardening. There's so much more that you cover that I would like to talk about, if that's okay.
I would be honored. This is such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's fun. No, I appreciate it. It's fun. I love doing these podcasts because I meet people who are passionate about what they do. And I love that. And for that spirit within somebody, that connection with whatever it is, be it oils, be it plants, be it crystals, it doesn't matter what it is. It's your connection with something. It's your spirit. And that's what I see in people. And I'm so grateful for your publicist for reaching out to me. And once I was listening to your podcast and I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm in. Because I could hear your passion and your little plant talks. I love those. You're just getting down and dirty with the plants, and this is who they are. And it's like meeting a member of the family, because they are a member of our family.
Yeah.
They're a member of our group of healers, of our helpers and healers that are going to come in and help people and ourselves in so many different ways.
Yeah, you're just like making me so happy. I'm kind of tearing up a bit because it is that connection, and the more we find each other and spread the word of this stuff, we're just helping people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've loved it. I've loved every minute. I truly have. I'm going to put all Amy's details in the show notes below. Maybe a link I think you need to speak to your friend and see if she'd make up the hydrosols and maybe be able to post them out.
Oh, well, I make the hydrosols. I was selling them in her shop.
Oh, so maybe you then. We can do this mix of the clary sage and the vitex. It's something we can talk about anyway and pop it in the show notes. I just think it might be a really nice option, because I haven't heard of those together and thought of the hydrosols, to be honest, in that way. So that's just perfect.
Yeah, we'll be in touch, definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks everybody for listening. Much love to you all. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.